What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. It has been the minute of longest minutes. It's been an hour, but we're here. We're two-manning it today. Christian's got work. It's been a lot of different things going on in our lives. Reuven, bro. I don't know if you want to share what you been up to, bro.
Oh man, I guess by the time we get this out, but I got engaged, man, on
Yeah.
September 11th, 2023 on 9/11.
Oh.
So, that sounds crazy, bro. Bro, my buddy tweeted, he was like,
Yeah.
9/11 is now the day that it was an
That
inside job.
that
And my
is
buddy
crazy,
tweeted,
bro.
bro, I
Oh my
can't, like, it's
goodness.
insane. Bro, I cannot believe he did that. But yeah, man, I'm engaged. It's also been a crazy past couple of weeks because I also lost my grandfather.
Mm.
But we're celebrating his life, for 93 years he's lived. So
Mm.
it's been a time of celebration and, you know, um obviously some tough stuff and challenges, but we
Sure.
get it. Now we're back to talk ball
Yeah.
with my homie.
It's been a good few weeks of ball, even though there's no NBA. But yeah,
Yeah.
Christian's not here today, y'all. He's doing big things, Finished school. He's in a
It's
new
moving on up.
job. Yeah, he's no longer a retail man. He's escaped it. He's holding it
He's got,
down now.
he's got real money now. He's gonna make real money now,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, salary boys.
Yeah.
Me myself though.
Salary.
Yeah, I'm still the hourly, but that's okay. I'm in
DJ,
school to be a
get
teacher,
that,
so.
bro.
But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, y'all, as you can see, Canada, man, Canada's on the way up. We're gonna talk about that soon, but first, just to kind of brush up on stuff going around the league, there was a little interview clip that got dropped today. And
Yes.
I saw on Buck's Twitter there was a lot of mixed signals. Brandon Jennings even weighed in on it. And it was the fact that Giannis kind of hinted that if they're not competitive, he has no problem leaving with it. And Ruben sent me that, kind of got asked for my opinion on it. I was gonna save for the pod. And my thing is this: if Giannis wants to leave and it's solely because the front office isn't building a team around him, I'm totally okay with that. He did what he had to do. He not only, I mean, he surpassed any kind of expectations you could have had for him back in 2013. You know, there's no way you could have saw that guy being a two-time MVP, a DPOY, perennial All-Star, undoubtedly, and he's in the air of a KG, undoubtedly, even maybe
Yeah.
surpassed him to an extent. But Giannis, he is the greatest buck of all time. Kareem is all great and all, but he passed up Kareem in scoring last year, and you know was able to also bring a chip to it. My thing is just basically, I understand that Giannis wants to be competitive, and just looking at how our roster is built at the moment, the next 2 years I think is going to be very shaky because you got Drew's potential retirement because his contract's up after next year, and the
Yep.
roster to this point, it's leaving a lot to be desired. There wasn't really much turnaround from what we had last year to now. I mean, our biggest addition was maybe Malik Beasley. We're putting a lot of faith in a bunch of rookies, but you have that. But when you have Giannis, you always have a chance. But it's just the health of Chris Middleton. Brooke Lopez is about to be 39, I think. And, again, you're putting a lot of faith in the potential development of some young guys that have some bright spots for sure. But, you know, a young guy is a young guy when it comes to being on a veteran led team. They can only really do so much. So I'm totally okay with it. What are you feeling about it? I think people are kind of blowing it out of proportion.
Yeah, I think so too. I just wanted to hear your thoughts because you follow the team and you understand like what the team looks like now and what the team will look like 5 years later down the road. This isn't like hearing you talk about it. It's not a situation where this team is built to last for 5 years. There was going to be a point where we're going to say, okay, this core has run its course. Let's see what happens now. And they went all in on trading for Drew Holiday, right? They went on all in on that roster that eventually won the 2021 NBA championship. So, I mean, again, we always do this. Like, we always go back to the parallels of like our favorite teams. Like, Toronto went all in on Kawhi in 2019. would most fans sit here and say, "I take it back to have 10 years of winning but never win a championship"? I'd rather have a chip and have to hit a rebuild after 3 years or something, which is essentially what the Raptors are doing. I don't know if I could say the same. I'm not sure if the Bucks fans, like you, DJ, would say the same. Maybe you would, because the championship is an everlasting thing. But 10 years of playoff success, or being in the playoffs, always gets forgotten. And in fact, that longevity of success in the playoffs always gets labeled as mediocrity, right? Because even if
you're
you
not able
were
to
there
get
for
over
such
the
a long time,
hump.
exactly. And like I think that's a big problem in today's society, anyways. That how we look at things is what success looks like. And Giannis talked about it last year, like what success looks like individually and as a team. All that being said, is basically like the time for a core, like this core itself, I think has run its course. Obviously, if Giannis wasn't injured last year, my personal opinion has always stayed the same, that I think this team would have made the finals if Giannis hadn't been injured in those first 2 games. Or was it the first 3 games, if I'm not mistaken?
He got injured
Game one,
game one, didn't finish that out, didn't play game
2 and 3
two.
up.
I think 3 or 4 he tried to play, but then he couldn't.
Yeah,
He couldn't go.
yeah. And so that, again, my opinion stands. I think this Milwaukee Bucks team is as good, would have been good enough to win the NBA championship
For
last
sure.
year if it wasn't for Giannis going down with that injury. And so you look at any team, like you're always an injury or two away, or like fouling out, or a technical foul, or a stupid ejection, or something like that, away from title hopes, because the margin of error once you get the playoffs is crazy. So this year, if we're talking specifically about this year, the Bucks have as good a chance as anybody to win the title this year. Like whether or not they added nobody or they added Malik Beasley and they stayed pat with most of their roster, everybody is that smart is going to keep Milwaukee in their top 6 and their top 5, top 3, whatever it is you want to put them in. Regardless, they're going to be a title contender this year. And I could also foresee them being a team that, again, doesn't try as hard in the regular season, but they just managed to be a top 2 team because they're that good. Giannis is that good. Drew Holiday, when healthy, is that good. Chris Middleton, hopefully he gets some of that jive back. He gets some of that jump and some of that spryness back. Obviously, having to recover last year from that injury, right? And he was kind of thrown into the fire, expected to produce at some point, right? So from an outside perspective, I'd sit here and be like, yo, I think the Bucks could still win it this year. So are we gonna say like Giannis leaving after they win, like, let's say 2 titles? Like we're gonna sit here and say that that was a failure by any chance? And like, let's say if they win a championship, the team will probably want to stick it together, or maybe they manage to attract another free agent. I don't know what it is, but like when you win a title, that's the most important thing, and so they still have that chance. So it's almost at the point where it's like my long spiel to say like, let's worry about it when we get there. Right, this season, I'm pretty sure Giannis is focused solely on getting this season done and trying to win a chip. And if they manage to do it, then it's like you have the best case scenario there to keep Giannis. So, I mean, again, people blowing it out of proportion for sure. And I think it's a bit annoying how we're approaching this. It's like LeBron's done it multiple times where he felt like the situation has run its course, he left. Same with KD. Like, what free agent or what superstar today you think of off the top of your head hasn't done that?
Hmm. I mean, obviously,
Like,
you have the Stephs of the world, but I think you got to think about a guy who kind of hit the ground running. Not that Giannis did necessarily, but
it's like,
when you look at a guy that kind of came in and checked all the boxes, I guess. And yeah, when you look at it, because I mean, Giannis and Steph, I would assume, are like the longest tenured superstars off the top of my head with their current teams, right?
yeah,
Book maybe,
yeah.
but
It's a small group, and if you look like back in history, like Kobe, Dirk, Tim,
and then even the Kobe thing is like kind of glossed over that he
he
almost
tried
left
to
the
get
game
out of
three
there, didn't he, man?
times.
He
Yeah,
tried to get out of there.
yeah.
Yo, he tried to get out of there, and so I mean, am I gonna fault Giannis for wanting to leave when he feels like the team isn't committed to him anymore? No, because like, why would he stay then if the number one objective isn't to build a team around him anymore? If they don't think that it's possible, right? Like you're just gonna hang on to him. I think that's partly the reason what's going on with Portland too. Like you're kind of in denial about a situation, but that we could reserve that conversation for another time because
Nah,
that
I'm
conversation.
so sick of that. At this point, it almost feels like it's not gonna happen. There's like,
And do you see the report that came out too?
oh,
That he was saying, okay,
Silver
yeah,
was
he'll
saying
actually
like,
report to any team.
I saw that too, but I also saw
Yeah,
another one that said Adam Silver was like man, fuck y'all, basically. Like, what are you doing?
yeah. He's like, yeah, we want to see y'all on your contracts. Like, what are you doing here? So I don't know.
I mean, it's crazy to think. I remember like not even half a decade ago, 120 was like the max. Now
Yeah,
Dame got paid that for 2 years. That's crazy. Which I
dude,
mean
that's
is
crazy
all
money.
relative because like every year any player's up for an extension, they're gonna reset the market. But anyways, yeah, I feel like people are just so attached to Giannis and the fact that he does fit that Milwaukee culture. You know, he is a very blue collar, work for every dollar kind of guy, and you know, as a guy of his caliber, I would definitely want to be in a winning situation. And the
Yeah,
fact of the matter is, for small market teams, it's hard to really attract like a big name. Because I mean, when was the last time like a small market team got like a top tier player?
that doesn't count LeBron James going back home to Cleveland.
No, yeah, I'm thinking more
No,
like
exactly. I mean,
not necessarily narrative, not as like heavily narrative driven, I guess.
yeah. I mean, free agency.
Yeah, that's
Speaking,
kind of
no,
hard.
it's hard. Like everybody has chosen to go to New York, Miami, Chicago, L.A. Obviously, not very much, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think that's a bad
Nothing at
that
all.
yeah, that's just the bad thing or the sad thing about being a small market is that your draft picks kind of count like tenfold if that makes sense. Like you gotta build through the draft and you know, way Milwaukee's structure, that's not gonna happen until I'm not saying Giannis is gonna leave, but you know, something along those lines to where there's a hard reset. It's a very there aren't a lot of avenues I see to where John Horst can navigate being able to sustain like another like decade of Giannis, I feel. But who
Yeah,
knows? I mean, we if there's anything we've seen in the past few years, it's that any trade is possible. I
yeah,
mean, can you imagine like 5 seconds gets you a solid role player? That's some 2K shit.
yeah.
But
That
you know, everyone's
5 seconds,
just
man.
throwing them around and all that. But anyways, that's what that is. Let's talk about the World Cup. It's been like a week or so, but you know, the pride is burning through. I remember my girlfriend's mom, big Lakers fan, so you know she was repping for the states. It's like, oh, I don't like Dylan Brooke because he insulted LeBron. Well, Dylan Brooke gave them what was it, 39, 49, whichever.
Give him 39.
Give him
Yeah,
39 of them things. So before we talk about like Canada itself, let's just discuss why the U.S. itself failed. I mean, it's been a rough couple weeks for American players. I mean, you know, fuck KPJ first of all, and then I mean,
yeah, 100%. Get
when
that
you
guy
look
out
at
of here,
like
man.
yeah, that dude's career is over. It sucks because like I was really pulling for him, but you know, you definitely never want to do that. But the U.S. itself, I feel like it came down to two main things. I think it was the whole talent versus continuity slash experience argument. And, you know, the world is catching up for that second point. I mean, think about it. An American hasn't won MVP in 5 years, which is like insane to think of it when we always like, you know, anytime it's the Olympics or any sort of like international basketball thing, we always pencil the states to do well. But now, you know, you got the Lucas, the Jokic's, the Giannis's, you could
SGAs.
the SGAs. You could still kind of count Embiid, but you know he might pull some. Okay, sidebar. Would Embiid flipping from like Cameroon or even France to just becoming like on the American team, is that more snaky than KD?
It's pretty close.
Right?
Like that's your country. Like that's your where you were either born or you grew up in,
Mm,
right? Like that's pretty snaky to
that's
go behind the
very
back of like
snaky.
a country that, you know, I mean, again, the whole conversation of patriotism is a whole different like thing. It's like kind of even a political thing.
Mm,
So I would just put it this way: like I'm a proud Filipino Canadian. I'm sure you're a proud Filipino Canadian. So if I had ever had the chance, I would love to represent either the Philippines or Canada. I would
for sure.
represent Canada first though, because I was born and raised here. But you know,
And they win.
exactly. So it's like, you know, and they win. But I'm just saying, like, you know, and so for you as from Cameroon, or and did he grow up? He spent a lot of time in France, right?
I think so. That's how I think the connection is.
And so you wouldn't want to play for those countries, you know. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But you know, I again, when you look at like the roster they put out, it was a good roster on paper for sure. You know, a lot of
yeah,
all stars, a lot of budding guys. But was looking through it. There's only like two guys with international experience on that team, and none of them are like senior guys. So obviously you had it was Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton, which were in like the Youth World Cups, versus like the team that kind of smacked them. We look at Serbia. They've been rolling with those guys have been in that system playing together in the summer for years, and it really
yeah.
showed. And you know, I think when it just came down to it, it was yeah, talent versus continuity, and the world is catching up. But what were you kind of feeling for the reason that the U.S. was failing?
So like looking at the roster, okay, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go high level view, like how you broke it down. I definitely think the world has caught up, and you just can't send your B team or your C team anymore. You just can't do that because the level of talent isn't just like guys who have played in their countries for such a long time. We're talking about guys who are playing for their countries, coming from playing professional basketball at a high level for several years. So you look at a team like Lithuania, you look at a team like Germany, you look at a team like Australia, where several guys are playing high level basketball in other pro leagues, and then they're coming back, and it's not guys who are playing college only, right? That there was a long time where the states was doing that, sending NCAA guys. There's a long time where a lot of these different countries they were just sending pro players within the pro leagues of their country, but they weren't playing in, you know, they weren't playing in Spain, they weren't playing in Australia, like hell they weren't playing, you know, whatever the other leagues you can think of, the Chinese basketball league, sure, whatever. Like they weren't playing in these massive pro leagues that included other international talent. Now like the world has set that precedence where it's like they're taking on the best talent, and like that's happening everywhere. Diversity isn't just in the NBA, it's in every other pro league we're talking
For
about.
sure.
So I want to bring up Noah Lyles' comments because there's some
Oh
relevance
yeah.
to it. So at first I said, what the hell is he talking about? Because like the NBA is the best league in the world. It's got the best players. But that's a really tunnel vision point of view when you don't realize that a lot of these guys in other pro leagues could probably step in the NBA and wash a ton of these guys too.
Mm, especially now.
So especially now, and we saw it during the freaking World
Yeah.
Cup. So let's not leave that up there. There's a bunch of guys on these World Cups, like at these in these different national teams that can step into the NBA and have a role and play a massive role on some of these NBA teams, and they could end up being the Austin Reeveses of the world or the Mikal Bridgeses before the breakout season with Brooklyn. So I mean, I would just put it that way. Uh, for sure, USA had a lack of size
Definitely.
because if you're trusting Jaren Jackson Jr. to play the five position where he's typically not played, he's playing the four most of the time. Number one, and number two, the dude has struggled with foul trouble all year long. It's been like the biggest weakness of his career. And so you would think that playing him alongside a Walker Kessler would make a lot more sense, or having another big on this roster, another big from, you know, the U.S. like Evan Mobley. I don't know if he didn't want to play or something like that. I'm just saying, like, there's other U.S. bigs that they could have taken on this roster. So a little bit disappointed in like the way they built this roster. And again, there wasn't a clear superstar on this team. I
Yeah.
just think like you look across the board, Germany didn't have a clear superstar, but they had a clear leader. Dennis Schroeder was their leader.
Ooh,
But they
yeah,
had
that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. And he's been with the program for such a long time, and we've seen all the stuff with Maxi Kleber in the past and the history that Dennis Schroeder has with that he's been the voice of reason with that team. You look at Lithuania, a guy like Jonas Valanciunas. You look at Australia, Patty Mills and Joe Ingles. Like, but they are getting these superstar players now. Look at a team like Spain, right? Like continuity. These guys, I can't think off the top of my head who, their top player is in Spain now. But
Rudy Fernandez is
um,
kind of giving Canada the business, low key.
yeah, well, he's been the leader, right? He's been continuously there, a part of their program for such a long time. You go way back when they had Pau Gasol, Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Jose Calderon, right? Carlos Navarro, right? They've had such great talent that's been steady. So continuity, number one, it's like they don't have that. And then if you're not going to have continuity, you need to have the top like level talent. And so their best guy in that tournament was Anthony Edwards, who is an all-star, but he's not a superstar. He's not a give me the ball and let me take over this game. And a lot of us we're gonna correct me if if you think I'm mistaken here, but like DJ, I went into this tournament thinking Brandon Ingram was going to take over this
Bro,
tournament.
we both thought. I thought Brandon Ingram was gonna cook.
Yeah, we both thought that he was gonna freaking cook, right? Like we thought he was gonna have the ball in his hands. He was gonna be the guy to take him home,
He's got like
and
the
he
perfect.
struggled. He,
He's got the perfect FIBA rules game.
yeah,
I think out of like the guys they picked.
absolutely, and he lost his starting spot to Josh Hart because they needed to prioritize defense, which the team was awful at doing.
Mm.
And you would have thought that a backcourt of like a Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards would have been able to be good enough defensively with a guy who's a defensive player of the year candidate every year and who has been the award winner, Jaren Jackson Jr. It's like, you know, so um, a lot of things to talk about, but obviously no top level talent, lack of size, lack of continuity, lack of clear role definition. And I think that falls on a guy like Steve Kerr, because if you've got your players stepping in there, and I get the whole thing, like, yeah, we don't have Dwayne Wade or Carmelo Anthony on this team, and like you don't want to come off the bench, but another shaking my head moment is like, for the life of me, I don't understand Tyrese Halliburton coming off the bench. I just don't.
Way too good of a facilitator to not.
Yeah,
I feel like
and I think
Jalen
that's what they
Brunson
lack.
would have been more accustomed because he's already kind of been that role in his career. Being the six man
Exactly.
spark plug, leading the second unit kind of guy.
Yeah. Or if you're going to play small, play them together.
Mm.
Play them together. Play Anthony Edwards at the three. Play Bi at the four. Josh Hart at the four. Um, and then play Jaren Jackson at the five. Like, go small. Like, if you're going to specialize in playing small, then do that. If you're going to play small for the whole tournament, then put out your best small lineup every single time and utilize your schemes around that. And that, I just think like there was an opportunity there, with Brunson and Halliburton. Um, but they didn't capitalize. I think Steve was right too. Like the team was talented enough to win. They just didn't get it done.
Mm.
For the reasons that you and I both said. But it's kind of disappointing, man. I thought this team was going to be pretty good, and they didn't even come away with a medal.
That's probably the biggest thing. Because I mean, they've always like, I don't. They've probably never not medaled. If I'm thinking about it,
They've came so the last FIBA World Cup they actually came seventh too.
they came
Like
seventh.
they actually didn't finish
Oh, dang.
as a medal in 2019. A lot of that's for the same reasons. Like guys had contractual obligations. Guys didn't want to play in the Olympics the year after, and then COVID happened, so that's why guys didn't commit to the World Cup. So there's a lot of that going around, and like who talked about this? JJ Redick talked about this, and I was like, yeah, that's obviously why, and he knows the reason best. But um, you look at other national teams, and these guys are all NBA players playing big roles, and you know that are coming playing for their national team. So, and these Americans are making so much freaking money. Like LeBron James is dropping $1 million on his body every summer. Like I get it, but I don't get it at the same time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, if anything, I think this only kind of makes me more excited for next summer because it's like
yeah,
it, the the playing field is going to be insane. Because I mean, we're talking about a Serbia team that just won the World Cup and they didn't even have or that came second in the World Cup. They didn't even have their best player. That team's going to add arguably the
yeah.
best player in the
And
world.
Jovic is gonna break out. Yeah,
Jovic was another, yeah. I mean, let's get right into it.
boy, boy.
Who are players that you think are going to bring the FIBA momentum into the upcoming season?
Nikola Jovic,
Mm,
100%. Nikola Jovic, whether he's in Portland or whether he's dropped off at another team or he still stays with Miami, that dude is gonna ball out next season. He's got such a unique skill set at 7 feet tall. Um, that dude can ball.
oh yeah, I like
Uh,
him as like,
yeah, I think Nikola Jovic for sure. I will say Austin Reeves.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So, sorry, you were gonna say that you liked
oh
him
yeah,
as a what?
Jovic. I like him as like he's definitely more of a pure four, but puts on a little more muscle on him. I think he could definitely be like he can play more five. Like I
Yeah,
think seeing his skill set, what he was able to showcase, in front of Spo, he's definitely going to be able to see like, okay, this guy can definitely maybe play a little bit of small ball five when it comes to it. And Bam himself is already kind of small for a center, but obviously like we know he can play center. So Jovic is a guy I'm excited to see a lot of opportunity for. For me, I mean, my number one is definitely Franz Wagner. I think not only like it was impressive to see how he played through his bum ankle, but I think the thing with
mm,
Franz is like he's perfect for his role. When you looked at the national team, Dennis Schroeder had the ball in his hands a lot, but when it came to like secondary creating and you know a guy who could get a shot off, Franz Wagner was always there for that team, and that's definitely what he's going to be for Orlando. Paulo's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. You're going to expect him to kind of you know maybe play hero ball here and there, but down the stretch, Franz Wagner's a guy I can see like he's in the mold of a Chris Middleton. He's definitely like in the mold to be like a perfect like Robin to whoever the Batman is. The second one is obviously
yeah,
I think Mikal Bridges. I think it was either him or Ant that I could say was like kind of the MVP of that team. But man, just the that whole last little section. It sucks because that's gonna get forgotten about in that game because they lost. But I think Mikal just proved he's for real for sure.
yeah,
Put him around a lot of talent, he was still able to really break out. And I think his numbers that he was able to have for that little stretch with the Nets is going to be like pretty close to what he averages throughout the whole season, for sure.
yeah. I like the Mikel pick a lot. I think he already broke out, and I think after this one, you can see how
Like
he
it
is in
wasn't a
the
fluke; it's for real. I
featured
think.
role. I
Yeah.
mentioned Austin Reeves. I think featured role again. Yeah. So, um, Austin Reeves, I think is gonna have a breakout season. I think SGA all the more. I think he's gonna absolutely explode, and I think that's a
100%.
given. But I think he's gonna explode. Um, I think another guy like under the radar that I think will have a pretty good year upcoming with the way that he ended his NBA season, coming into this and being again a featured role player, but played his role really well on this national team is Nikhil Alexander Walker. I think
That's a
he is
good
going to
pick.
have a really solid
Yeah.
season with Minnesota. So I'm really excited to see what he looks like. You said Franz Wagner. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Um, I mean, he was let go if I'm not mistaken, but Usman Garuba with the
He's on.
Spanish team.
I think he's on Atlanta now. Let me double check that.
Yeah, I mean, he played really well during that tournament too. So, um, his hey, Yuta Watanabe, how about that though? For
Oh
Japan, he played awesome.
man,
So he's a guy that
he's
could, you might look into next season. He's a sharpshooter. He's gonna play well for Phoenix. I think he's gonna be a really good fit.
Oh yeah, I think he is a free agent right now. But yeah, I mean
Yeah, so
Utah's.
I remember him getting let go, but
I can see Utah having like a 6 or 7 3-point like game this season for sure. With like how much space he's gonna
yeah,
have with all like the
I
competitors on
think
that floor.
wasn't he the best 3-point shooter percentage wise
Oh,
this past season?
let me double. I think if he wasn't for like the whole season, there
Was
was a
it him
part
or
where he was like,
Patty?
there was a. I remember. Do you remember Patty Mills like a few years ago? It might have been last year even. He didn't miss like a single three
Yeah,
pointer for like 3 games.
that's what I was thinking.
So he didn't lead the league,
I
but
think
he was like basically
him.
45%.
Yeah, that's an insane shooting percentage for a guy. Like especially obviously that was caused by the fact that the attention that had around him with KD, um with Kyrie. Obviously he's gonna have a lot of open looks, but my goodness, man, like that dude can stroke that bang.
For sure. He's definitely the cuzzo. Oh, show. Another guy I think is Josh Giddey. I think he had similar numbers to what he averages like now, but I just think he's finally comfortable. I feel when you look at him on the floor, I think the past couple of years you've seen like the spurts for sure, even like nice solid stretches. But I feel there's also been times where he gets a little into that youthful mode where you're kind of going on autopilot too much to a sense and you're not really fully engaged. But no, he looks fully like in control of the game. I'm definitely excited to see what he's able to do this upcoming season. And it's weird. I was looking it up
Yeah,
earlier. He got listed on Basketball Reference as like a power forward for some reason, which makes no sense. But you know, Giddy's
yeah.
another guy I can see like. I think that team's really gonna do some special things this upcoming season. I think we were saying like earlier. I do think their peak is a play in, but I think they're really gonna
Fun team.
they're gonna be in the hunt for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really fun, talented team, man. I'm really excited. I think you know what I would push that peak. I would say a top. I would say six or you know a sixth, fifth seed because
This
I
is
mean with the way that SGA is playing, combined with the talent that they have around them, again like a lot of young talent. So we're talking as if this young talent is going to come in and make a contribution right away. Chet Holmgren, dude, that's an exciting addition to that team. So again, having everybody back healthy, they're gonna have some solid role players. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do. I think SGA is just gonna explode this year. So gonna be fun to
true,
watch, man.
true.
Gonna be fun to
Yeah, I
watch.
think the only thing with like the sixth thing is that I feel like some team has to have like injury concerns or something. But I think if
I
everything
think
were to
it'll
go
happen.
well, oh, I don't doubt it. We all know how it would be, especially with like the new rules with resting, but they're gonna figure something out.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, OKC, I think if there's any team that's kind of set up for the future in the best way possible, it's definitely them for sure. I mean, let's get
100%.
into this next topic, Ruben. LeBron James potentially wants to make a comeback, and there's a little bit of a redeemed team esque to this because he's calling up the squad. How are you feeling about this? I think so. We all hear about we're gonna assemble the Avengers or whatever. How would you feel? This is kind of what I'm thinking. We're gonna think about. Okay, I'll just say like my roster when I'm thinking and what would be cool. So I think the for sure would be dope. We got LeBron, Steph, KD, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green's for sure got to be there. He's got to glaze up his boys. The hopefuls slash would be dopes. I think is Jimmy Butler. Some much needed defensive intensity there. And this one is like just kind of wanting to bring back some of the other guys who've like been on the USA Olympic teams the past bit. Paul George I think would be great to see out there, but I feel like he might be,
Yeah.
injury management or whatever. And then to finish out this roster, you got the new age guys. I think you got to get Jason Tatum, Devin Booker for sure, Bam, and Anthony Edwards in that roster. So the full roster would be, LeBron, Steph, KD, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Edwards. That's a pretty nice looking roster.
That's a nice squad. That's a really nice squad. I mean, I can't argue against it. I mean, that's a nice squad. I mean, that's a gold medal squad right there.
For
I think
sure.
that's I mean, I can't sit here and say definitively they'd win the gold medal because again, we just saw the rest of the world has caught up. Again, there's not another team that can spot that kind of talent 1 to 12, but there's only 5 guys out on the court at a time. So it doesn't freaking matter, right? So that's a really good team. I would love to have Kawhi on that team. That would be fun
Kawhi was
if he
another
was
one I
ever
was thinking
willing
would be
to.
dope.
Um,
But man, just
it would be
imagine
cool.
you got LeBron and Steph and KD all on the floor at once. Ooh, that's nasty.
Oh my God, LeBron, KD, Steph. Can you imagine putting Kawhi as a shooting guard in that position? Like that.
Oh,
That's my God, dude. Like AD at the center or Bam at the center. I mean, that's tough, man. That's
man.
tough. That's a tough team. Again, I think that squad, if they were to bring that for the Olympics next year, sure they'll win gold. But again, the problem still going to persist is the commitment to their program and their continuity, and that's always going to be an issue. And if these star players are always going to be like, well, this and that, they're never going to establish that culture. They managed to do it from like 2000. I mean, we saw the USA Olympic team, the Redeem Team documentary, but you go from there and then up till 2016, it's just been a lack of commitment from superstars. So there's got to be something that gives, whether it's like a guy like Jason Tatum coming out and saying, "Yeah, I've committed for the rest of my career to play for the Olympic team or for the U.S. team, and that I'm going to try and bring in the rest of these guys." So they're gonna have the same problems. Yeah, they can win the gold next year, and I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh well, one gold, doesn't make up for anything," but they're going to have this narrative for a really long time unless something gives.
I feel that, but I will say, I think as long as LeBron commits, I think everybody
Everybody else
else
will.
will jump on board because I feel like I don't want to say he was the main reason, but I will say when you saw him opt out for 2020 and like onwards in 2016, that's I think when you start to see a steep decline in like a lot of the top guys wanting to play. But they've still been able to like fashion out solid rosters. The 2020 team I think
Yeah,
is still really good, but man,
yeah.
if they bring this out for 2022, oh man, like I think we're gonna see similar shades of 2012 where it's like, you could spot a team 20, 30 points and they're still gonna lose.
Yeah, yeah. This team is so dirty, man. I mean, again, their best player just has to commit. So if
For
LeBron's
sure.
long and gone, Jason Tatum, it's you, commit. If it's freaking Chet Holmgren in the next 8 years, freaking commit. Like whatever it is, Anthony Edwards, if he ends up turning out to be the superstar after this tournament, freaking commit. Then boom, you're good. Everybody else is gonna follow because there's no excuse for anybody else. If the best player in the world, or at least the best player in the country is gonna commit, then you gotta follow.
1000%. 1000%. All right, to end off this episode, as we said, Canada, first World Cup medal. Probably the first, is that like their first like major medal in any of like world competitions?
This is their best international run in basketball.
Hey man, we come a long way from Robert Sacre.
Bronze medal, baby. Robert Sacre. Shout out to Robert Sacre.
He's
Shout out
from,
to Joel Anthony.
wait, Sacre's from like here, isn't he? He's like from,
Yeah, he's
damn,
from BC. Yeah.
shit.
Shout out to Brady Heslip.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
Shout out to God damn. All y'all making me forget these names. Um
Oh, bro.
Did I say Joel? I said Joel Anthony.
Joel Anthony, yeah, that's the one I know
My
for.
God. he was playing for that team for such a long time. But you know what?
True.
Honestly, all jokes aside, shout out to like Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell. And those guys stuck with the program for such a long time. Dylan Brooks, like I got the chance, like I had the chance to interview Kelly and Dylan and RJ, a few times back then. Like those guys stuck with the program for the very beginning. Obviously, RJ's still a younger guy, but with his dad being, an executive for Team Canada, but dude, you gotta give it up for the guys that stuck with the program from the very beginning when they were like young kids still playing in high school. And
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Olynyk was one of those guys. Dwight Powell was one of those guys. Corey Joseph, who didn't get to play around this time, recovering from an injury, but hopefully we'll get to see him on the team next year. Man, shout out, man! Like that was such a fun run for Canada. Like I'm
Bro,
so
I'm
such a
not
proud
gonna lie.
Canadian.
I haven't felt that Canadian since like 2010, bro. Oh God.
Yeah, I haven't felt that Canadian since 2010. That's
For
crazy,
real, bro.
bro.
I
When it
ain't
was going
felt
like this with the
I ain't
Richmond
felt
Oval,
Canadian
man.
in so long.
That was awesome. That was a proud moment for sure,
Mm-hmm.
bro.
It all ended.
SGA the way he played,
Oh my gosh.
you.
SGA was low key.
He's the best player. He's the best player in the world.
Oh, he's up there for sure. For sure. He's made a jump from like borderline top 10 shooting guard to I think on some cases I might take him over Book. On
I
God.
would take him over Buck. I'm taking him over Buck. I'm sorry. I'm taking him over Buck. Like that man's just got it. Like Devin does too, but his playmaking ability, Shea's playmaking ability, his size at the combo guard position, it's just unmatched.
And the moxie he plays with. Man, when he shook Mikal,
Oh my
oh,
god!
he gave the little oh my goodness.
And the jumper was like he's got a really weird release point, but
Yeah,
like
that's like
oh my goodness,
that's the kind of jumper you shoot when you're like when you really want to kind of piss someone off. You like
yeah, like it was just
let it all like everything from his like lower body all the way hang or whatever it
and he
was.
was like he was like hanging like that was it was beautiful basketball SGA.
For
And
sure.
shout out to the Dylan Brooks haters because he don't give no damn about y'all.
Handy
Dylan Brooks has dropped
Gundy.
it on your head top man, them. Yo, the man from Mississauga, man. Yo, he dropped brunch job. Leo, man. Shout out Dylan
Oh,
Brooks.
bro, man.
He straight up bold cloud on your battery things, eh? Rick. Dylan Brooks is a man, them.
Dead ass, bro. And one person we really got to give a lot of credit to, Jordy Fernandez, man.
Jordy Fernandez.
Shit,
Oh,
man.
Canada, our home and native land.
Is is what's it called? Is Toronto? Are they gonna get to keep that coaching staff? Did they
Oh
ever
man,
figure
I
that
wish
out?
we got. Oh, man, I wish we got Jordy, bro. I wish we got
Cause yeah,
Jordy,
Jordy definitely got a job for him next year, man.
bro.
For
It's
sure.
crazy. They didn't hire him. They Darko Rajakovic better be damn good next year, man.
Hey,
For
man.
them taking Darko over Jordy, Darko better show me something, bro.
I mean, you just better hope they don't use the Knickerbocker stuff that they stole.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. Like, who would steal from the Knicks, man?
Dead ass,
Who
bro.
steals
Out of
for the
all
Knicks?
the
Get out of here.
teams, out of
Get
all the
out of
teams to
here.
steal from,
They don't even play no offense, bro. The ball's like, oh my goodness gracious. Tom Thibodeau's a coach for all people, man. You can steal their schemes. Oh my god, just to know what they are.
mm,
Jesus Christ, their offense is literally give the ball Jalen Brunson, run 2-man game with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett bricks,
yeah,
6 for 24. I'm sorry, RJ. I love you. You're a Canadian. You played really well,
Team
but
Canada
man,
RJ is a different guy. As
that's
far
a
as I'm
different guy.
concerned.
Actually, during the tournament a little bit, that man then was a
I
little bit
mean,
off to the
he
slide.
showed up for the last couple games.
He did. He
He
absolutely
was
did. You're right.
he was like the only one that was kind of on shit in the Brazil game too.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
else was kind of ass.
Yes, everybody was.
But so to end off this episode, Ruben, man, let's talk about the potential Team Canada for the Olympics next year.
Yeah.
So I've broken it up into the guards, wings, and the bigs. It's a 12-man roster. Let's kind of get the for sure's out the way. So obviously we're gonna have. I'm not gonna lie, man. This might be the best backcourt next Olympics.
Yeah.
SGA and Jamal for show for the guards. Who do you think like rounds
Yep.
out those last two spots there?
Corey Joseph for sure. I'm going to say
Oh
Corey
yeah, the
Joseph.
OG.
And
This is tough because for
I
me
think if you
personally, I want to put Nikhil here because I think he really kind of showed his chops. But then you
yeah,
also got a guy like, Andrew Nemhard. If
that's
you want to
that's
throw
the
the
thing.
rest of those
Andrew
other
Nemhard
guys
has
in
been a
there.
long he's been a long time guy with the program.
Mm,
So, I think he might get but again, you can slide Nikhil out as a wing, right? So if you're taking four guys, you can take Kojo. I think he'll make it just purely out of loyalty. He's been one of the leaders for the program for a long time, and I think Andrew Nemhard, if he's willing to play.
mm.
So I think that's the four. In my opinion, I think that's the four guys.
Okay. Okay. Who do you like for our wings here?
So how many positions do we have
So I
as a
put
wing? Probably
guard, wings, and bigs. Kind of
so
showing.
four, and four.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay, wow, this is what's up.
Should
Well,
should
Andrew
we
Wiggins,
should we
RJ Barrett.
swing should we swing back to the wings to just get these bigs out the way? Because
Yeah,
I
okay,
feel like
let's
the
do
bigs
let's
is
get the bigs out the
pretty
way.
obvious. Because
Absolutely.
for me, I think it's Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell, Boucher, and Trey Lyles. I think that's who we roll with
Yeah,
for our bigs.
yeah, I'm with that one. Yeah, absolutely, I'm with that one. I would have said Brandon Clark, but I think he won't be playing next year if it's not for his injury. But Trey Lyles had an awesome season in Sacramento, so
True, but I
Trey Lyles
also
is a good
feel
one.
like as much as I love Brandon Clark, Vancouver boy, I think the stretching that Boucher and Lyles brings will kind of put them over the top. Same with
Yeah,
Olynyk. Powell is already kind of your like back to the
he's a
basket
defensive
in a
center.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
he's the one guy you have to defend, so he's obviously gonna start every game.
for
So,
sure.
um, yeah, you're not gonna take Ken Birch.
Hey man, there's a
Ken
reason Ken
Birch.
Birch is he's he's gonna be up there averaging 5 high fives, 6 Gatorade hands out, 2 advices. He's gonna be averaging that for the Spurs this year.
Zach Edey. You're not gonna take Zach Edey.
Hell no!
That
Because
yeah.
I'm
All
not
right,
gonna
Zach.
lie,
Zach, congratulations, Zach.
LeBron might jump over him just to fucking prove a point.
Yeah, I mean that dude's Zach Edey's some big size.
I feel like he's
That's
gonna. I don't think he'll make the NBA, but I can see him having like a really successful run in Europe or something
yeah,
where he can
yeah,
just crowd that paint.
yep. Well, all best to you, Zach. Good luck with your career.
Oh yeah,
You helped us get to one of the greatest runs in Canadian basketball history. So we love
you
you.
were a part of that. Thanks, Zach.
Yes, sir.
All right, the wings. This is probably the most hotly contested one as well.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you my three, and then we can fight over the fourth.
Okay.
And I think we agree on the three. But
Yeah.
R.J. Barrett, Andrew Wiggins, and Dylan Brooks.
Oh, if that's the case, man, that's
Who do you not have on that?
I forgot about. Yeah, fuck, I forgot about Brooks, but then because I'm thinking Lou Dort's for sure got to be on that plane. But
Yeah,
then you
he's
also
got to be on
think,
there.
man, that's a squad itself. But I mean,
I guess you could have Lou Dort there. I
we're
mean, I
missing
think the only
guys like, well, not only that, but
Benedict Mathurin,
Benedict Maturin, Shaden
Shaden
Sharp,
Sharp,
you know, we
Leonard
don't even know
Miller.
how good these guys. Yeah, Lennon Miller, Omax, O'Shea Brissett. He was on like the extended roster, but
Yeah,
I think he had like injury or something.
yeah.
Kem Birch.
There's a lot of guys that could play for this Canadian team. I think ultimately, you know, Brooks and RJ are gonna make it purely out of loyalty.
For
They
sure.
were on the team. I think Lou Dort is probably gonna get that choice to play over Benedict Mathurin if it comes down to it, because again he was on the bronze medal team.
He was a big
Um,
X factor for sure as well.
he's their best outside of Dylan Brooks. He's their best perimeter defender,
Mm.
and he could play the four. And if you wanted to, he could play small ball five, similar to like a PJ Tucker. Like Lou Dort is that guy. So I think you got to have him on the roster because he's such an important specialty guy too.
Definitely.
That he's that kind of guy that can flip the switch for your basketball team. But I mean, again, like having talent as well, like a guy like Benedict Mathurin, that's tough, man, because that guy can
Yeah, that's
score, that
the
guy can
big
hoop,
thing.
right?
I feel like Lou's kind of secured his spot though, because not only was he like a good Swiss Army knife, but he saved us a lot in a lot of those games. I feel.
Yeah,
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 like when Brooks would get into foul trouble. I mean, there was that one game where he won like a 12-0 run by himself or whatever it was.
yeah. He's a big time player. Like it's hard now. It's awesome though that we are at the point with this Canadian
Where
national
we
team
have
where
to
we're
admit
talking about
NBA
omitting
players.
where
Yeah,
exactly where we have to omit
yeah.
NBA players, and it's awesome. It's a great problem to have. And the thing is, it's not we don't have the same problem like the U.S. where yeah, Wiggins hasn't been a guy that's committed, but Jamal Murray, SGA, all the best players have come in to the NBA and have still stayed committed to the program. RJ Barrett, right? So it's like you can't complain. You have to be so thankful about what we got. It's a good problem to have. If they decide to ultimately take seniority over, like, hey, Lou Dort's been here. He's an older guy. We're gonna take him over you, Ben. But Ben, you have an opportunity to be part of the next the FIBA tournament and the next Olympics when guys like Kojo hang it up. Guys like Dwight Powell, who's gonna be like 36, 37. Kelly Olynyk, who's gonna be older. A lot of these guys are gonna be at older ages. Um, like so, there's like 3 or 4 spots up for the taking. So I mean, I would just say stick with the program, man. Like Ben's gonna get his shot, right? Because he's already a really solid player in the NBA. He's only gonna get grow. I think he's got all-star potential as well. So good problem to have, man.
Oh, but man,
It's
Benedict's just he's got that it factor,
he's a
bro,
dog.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember what he said about LeBron?
Oh, he got to show
You
me
gotta
that he's better
show
than me,
me.
right? Like,
Oh man,
yeah.
and
You
Shannon
love that.
Sharp's
Like
still the
that's what you want.
international man of mystery, and he's a dog
Hmm.
for sure.
And that's we forget about him there as a name. Like, but that dude would be awesome on the Canadian team too.
Oh yeah,
So
man,
it's
I'm
tough, man.
so
It's
happy
tough.
to see where Canada
Okay.
basketball's at now, man. So,
Would you say starting lineup
oh,
is Jamal Murray, SGA? I would say Wiggins. I don't know who to say for the three or like. Okay, we say Wiggins there. Maybe the other wing is
ooh,
Dylan Brooks,
I would
and then
put
the five
Brooks
is Dwight
over.
Powell.
I like Kelly, low key. I like Kelly
You like
more as
Kelly
the
at the
starter.
4?
Look,
I
so
like Kelly,
for
but I
me,
also like him as a backup big too. So I mean,
true.
you could
Okay,
place it
wait,
around, but
wait.
I
So
don't know
you
what you
name your
think.
five, I'll name my five.
All right, there you go. So I'll do okay. So for sure, Jamal Murray, SGA. I would absolutely have Wiggins, but I'll play Wiggins at the 4. I'll play Dylan Brooks at the 3, and then I'll play Dwight Powell at the 5.
Mine's the exact same, except I would switch out Kelly for Dwight. But
Oh,
man,
so you'd start Kelly Olynyk over Dwight Powell?
yeah, I feel like I would.
Okay. Wow. Oh, interesting.
I like Kelly,
Just to
man.
stretch the floor. Actually, it was one of the topics, so I guess we can touch on it a little bit. The FIBA game is different from the NBA game,
Oh,
where
I forgot to
like,
mention that. Yeah, let's
well, I
talk
mean,
about it.
we could talk about a little bit in this because when you spread the floor in the FIBA game, again, guys can pack the paint a little bit more. The court's a little tighter,
Hmm.
so the more spacing that you have from 1 to 5 is so much more important because, especially a guy like Kelly, because he's a really good playmaker as a 5. Like he's really underrated there. I mean, the dude played high school growing up, and dude played point guard playing high school growing up. So the opportunity to have your big at the top of the key or outside on the perimeter and being able to put the ball on the floor or make the extra pass or make the right read in that possession is the difference between the FIBA game and the NBA game, where the NBA game's got a little bit more room on the court. There's a little bit more margin for error. The game is super fast, but again, it's not as tight. It's not as tight like the FIBA game. So you have to be like the split second decision that you have to make in FIBA, you have a second extra in the NBA, right? In terms of its ability and its length. Like guys are obviously 7'2" wingspans in the NBA, but you saw the game. Like the game looked really packed. Like it looked so like I felt like I was having like I was getting claustrophobic
Yeah,
watching the FIBA game a
way
little bit.
slower.
Yeah, and so it matters to have a guy like Kelly on the offensive end, especially because it's fine on the defensive end. I don't believe there's a 3-second violation in the
No,
defensively.
that is correct.
Offensively, there is. Defensively, you can sit in the paint, so you can crowd the paint, and so that makes it a lot harder for the opposing team to get into the paint. And so, again, you can build a scheme around that, like a zone, and you can sit in the paint if you play Kelly Olynyk against freaking Joel Embiid. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen necessarily. Like Kelly Olynyk and Joel Embiid, he's not going to stop him from having 40 points like in the paint, but you can build a scheme around that because of the fact there's no defensive three in the second. So offensively, it just makes them a lot more potent. But I mean, again, you talk about it a little bit too, because the FIBA game is so different from the NBA game. Like those little nicks and knacks, like it just makes the game. You have to critically think a little bit more when you play the
Definitely.
FIBA game.
Yeah, the transition game isn't as much of like a killer as it is in the NBA for sure.
Yeah, much slower. Even the little offensive interference thing, like that's not there.
Mm.
So when the ball's in the cylinder, already sitting in the cylinder, you can punch it out. Like little stuff like that. Like those are split second things that it's like you can actually goaltend
Yeah.
technically, right? So once it's around the cylinder and it's sitting there, you can punch it out. So again, interesting little nicks and knacks, where you have to just be a little bit more. Um, you have to play the FIBA game to really understand it. And so you
Yeah,
see
I
some
think
of
that's
the
the
guys, they
main
struggle
thing
with that
for
transition.
sure. Two distinctly different games, but just to give one more overview, y'all, the 2024 Canadian Olympic roster. We'll come back to this. We'll see how right we are. We're just gonna be 100%. Our guards: SGA, Jamal Murray, Kojo, Andrew Nemhard. The wings:
Yep.
Andrew Wiggins, RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort. And the big boys: Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell, Chris Boucher, and Trey Lyles. That sounds like a meddling squad if I've ever seen one.
That's
You know what I'm
1 to
saying?
12 NBA players, man.
Man.
That's the
Um,
best backcourt.
oh, 100%. Man. I'm not gonna lie. I love you, Steph. But I think SGA and Jamal are gonna cook you.
You okay? Yeah, this is okay. That's a good debate. Would you take on an NBA team? You're like the Milwaukee Bucks right now. Are you taking SGA and Jamal Murray over Steph Curry and Devin Booker?
Steph Curry and Devin Booker as my backcourt.
I mean, okay, that's a bit hard because I'm talking about putting them on your team. So, like,
Mm.
okay, if everything was clear and you had to start your team right now, as is, like the players that they are now as is, SGA and Jamal Murray, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, who you take?
Oh, that's tough. Oh man. I think just of how they'd be able to play off of each other, I'm gonna take SGA and Jamal.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's a you know what? Obviously, there's a little bit of bias as this Canadian guys, but I would do the same thing.
Yeah, because I feel like SGA and Jamal as well is like more it's solid, more solid defensively. Because I think,
Yeah,
as much as Steph deserves all the credit in terms of he's been able to beat the cone allegations for sure. But I just think
yeah,
Jamal can lock up. Shea showed can for sure lock up. He's like, I think the thing with like the goaltending thing as well is that guards are more willing to take that jump. You saw Shea, like
yeah,
he had some pretty nice blocks during that tournament run for sure.
yeah. That's a special backcourt and their size, right? Like
Mm.
Jamal Murray 6'5",
They're both like
Shea
six
is about
five.
6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
Yeah, like so that's a that's really important in the FIBA game too. Like the bigger you are, the better you have a chance at. Like Germany, that team was massive, right? You're talking Mo
Oh yeah.
Wagner, Franz Wagner, Daniel Tice, Isaac
Holy.
Bonga. Like that team, that alone is like Isaac Bonga is like 6'8", Franz Wagner is like what 6'9", 6'10".
And you're probably gonna add Maxi Kleber next summer.
Exactly six
Yeah.
nine, 6'10". Daniel Tice about 6'10". Mo Wagner about 6'11". Right? Like these guys have size, right? Like that is important in the FIBA game because as tight as it is, if you could be if you might not be God, pause. You might not be longer, but if you are bigger and taller, like, you know, You can penetrate and put it in the hoop.
As long as
Put
the
in the
D
hole.
sucked in, you're fine. Oh man, but overall, man, I am so excited for not only the upcoming season, because I mean, we're like a week away from preseason or something. No, never mind, we're like a month away. But
we're pretty close though.
we're that much closer. We're that much closer to NBA basketball, and
Getting there, y'all.
the
We're getting
summer of
there.
ball is gonna continue, man. I don't give a fuck about gymnastics. I'm just there to see hoop.
We're getting there, man. We're getting there. I'm excited about this. Yo, like
Canadian basketball.
this NBA season's gonna be awesome. This is gonna be a fun one.
Definitely. Oh man. Well, this has been another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. We hope y'all have enjoyed this. You know, it's been me and Ruben two-manning it for the past few. Hopefully Christian's able to join us. We're all gonna be back soon. But yeah, Ruben, you got any last things to add?
Enjoy this downtime, and freaking Portland and Miami and Philly, please figure your stuff out, man. Please. I just want you guys to figure it out, man. Like, get on the damn team already, or just commit, please. Please.
Definitely.
That's it.
With that, stay safe, stay blessed. See y'all soon.
Back shots, back shots.